Are you a guitar player who has a bunch of songs to learn and not a lot of time to learn them in? This is the video for you. Let's go. What's going on? My name is Adam. I hope you're doing well. If you are a musician looking for ways to make good money playing music, you are in the right place. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this. So this summer has been absolutely insane. I think over the course of the summer, I've played over a dozen shows with 5 different bands, and I've got more on the horizon. One of those is a 90s set that I've got to do this coming Saturday. If you've been keeping track, you may remember that I had a 90s gig pop up a couple of weeks back, but that was as a vocalist, and this is a guitar gig. So the music director finalized the song list a couple of days ago, and it turns out that I had quite a few that I needed to work on. If you are a professional musician, your job is to learn as many songs as possible in the shortest period of time possible to the best of your ability. But when you're dealing with large amounts of material and short time periods, it can get super overwhelming. So I wanted to go over the methods and best practices that I use to onboard large amounts of new material without having a panic attack. Some of you may be saying, maybe the first thing you should try is
stop procrastinating by making YouTube videos about the thing you're supposed to be doing and actually do the thing that you need to do.
That's a pretty good point, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging, so we'll move to the actual steps. The first thing you need to do is to get real with the things that you do and don't know. After going through the set list with a fine-tooth comb, I landed on 17 things that I really needed to dig into. Now, just a note, not all of these were the entire songs. Maybe it was just a little section of something. A good example of that is Smells Like Teen Spirit. I definitely have played that song before, but wanted to spend some time working through the solo just to make sure that when it comes up in the song, my hands don't turn to mush and I forget something that is super easy to do and super obvious when you mess it up. So in my case, it was primarily bits and pieces of songs and then a couple of female-fronted ones that I've never played on guitar before, and some other songs that I've definitely played before, but because this is a 4-piece configuration, I'm the only guitar player, so I'm gonna have to take on a few more things that I normally would play. But doing this in the beginning is a great way to make sure that you're not wasting time on things that you may already know and that you can manage your time wisely for the things you need to dig into. The next thing you need to do is to make a list. When I first got the email that had the full song list on it, I started to panic. Seeing all of those songs in one big chunk can feel very overwhelming. By writing down the songs you really need to prioritize, it can help alleviate some of that anxiety so that you're not looking through tons and tons of material that you don't need to worry about. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be entire songs. It can be certain sections of things that you need to dig into more than others. Once I completed that process, I was ready to actually get into the nitty-gritty of working through the material, which moves me to my next point. Prioritize, but don't dwell. Make sure that you've got a good idea of the things that you really need to dig into, but also make sure that those things don't monopolize the time that you have to work on it. There have definitely been situations where I've become obsessed with a particular song and got way too in the weeds, only to realize that I had completely squandered the time that I had and wasn't going to be able to give the other material the attention it needed. You don't want to end up in that situation. So go ahead and list the songs in order of importance, but make sure that you're not neglecting the bottom of that list. Which brings me to my next point. Put in small amounts of work over time. Listen, this gig is not your biology midterm. Waiting to cram the night before is the worst possible thing you could do. Just like in science class, if you do it this way, the song will fall out of your head the second you're done playing it. The thing that works for me is working on songs for a little bit of time and then moving on to another one, and doing that in small pockets of time over the course of a day. With the way that my job is set up, I do have little sections where I can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to kind of dig into a particular section and maybe get a couple of things under my fingers and then move on to the next thing. Doing so over a period of time may actually make your practicing more efficient because you don't end up getting stuck on one particular section. Work on something, build up a certain level of proficiency, and then move to something else. Over and over and over. Repetition and muscle memory is the name of the game here. The next thing that's going to be beneficial is to track your progress. In doing things over small pockets of time, you may be able to see how things are going and maybe take things off of the list that you feel pretty comfortable with. For some of you, it may be beneficial to record your practice sessions so that you can track how things are progressing. I always say I'm going to record myself and then I forget to do it, but I'm sure it would be super impressive to see how that progress looks as it's happening in real time. The last thing I suggest is to do full run-throughs of as many songs as possible before the show. Once I feel like I've given a song the proper amount of attention, I'll stand up and I'll try and play the song all the way through a couple of times. When you are working on material in increments, it can feel like you have your wits about you. The problem is that if you don't practice transitioning from one section to the other, Your brain might just give out and you'll end up stuck in the middle of a tune and you don't know how to dig your way out of it. This is another great way to commit muscle memory to long-term memory so that you're not as dependent on things like chord charts and that kind of stuff. Me personally, I want to go through as many of the songs all the way through as I possibly can, and that's why I start as early as possible working through the material. Now, I'm naturally a procrastinator, but I think my fear of doing a bad job as a guitar player is so overwhelming, it just overrides that tendency. So by making a priority list and by working in small increments and doing it in pockets of time over time, I actually have more opportunity to do these full run-throughs as the gig approaches. So today is Tuesday, the show is going to be on Saturday, and I've more or less gone through my full list already. So now I've got multiple days to play through the songs from beginning to end, and maybe doing it again in small pockets, 2 songs here, 3 songs there. So by the time Saturday rolls around, I can actually enjoy myself and be present at the gig instead of completely panicking. This is a system that I've developed over a number of years, but it seems to be the one that works best for me. You may have a different learning style or are able to process information differently, but I think for most people, this is a pretty solid method. And if you aren't doing those things now, I would challenge you to give it a shot and see how it works for you. I'll be sure to give you guys a rundown when it's all done. So what do you do when you have to learn a bunch of songs in a short period of time? Leave a comment and let me know. That's gonna do it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We post new videos here every single Friday. I also wanted to note that I'm currently taking on new coaching clients. If you're an artist looking to launch a project or you're a band that's looking to get to the next level, coaching might be a good option for you. If you're interested in that, there's a form that you can fill out. I'll put a link for that in the description. Or if you're not looking to spend any money and you're looking for more content, check out our podcast. We're at over 200 episodes covering all types of ways that you can make good money playing music. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time.